Hello and welcome to the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast with me, Clive Barber, and my good mate, Noel Tom. For the days when you can't ride your bike, there's always the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast. Right, we're back. Festival season's kind of over, I guess, now. I had a lot of fun at the ABR and we both had a lot of fun at the Lightweight Adventurous Festival, but we're back at it now. We're recording again. Welcome to Season 5. Don't ask me why, there's no rhyme or reason. It just is. So it's just me and Noel today, just catching up, talking about a few things we've done, saying sorry for everything we've done wrong, and we've got a nice big listener Q&A at the end, which was surprisingly good fun. Thanks a lot for sending those in, chaps. Much appreciated. We really enjoyed meeting so many people at all of these festivals this year. It's just fantastic. And as I always suspected, I guess people that like the podcast, like the kind of bollocks that we talk, are going to be our kind of people, which everybody was. So for those of you that we met, thanks for coming to say hello. Brilliant to meet everybody. Right, let's get on with it.
So I'm full of cold.
I spent all weekend in bed last weekend. It's horrible.
Oh, you've had it worse, have you?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I've had it. I manned the fuck up and got on with it. I didn't actually. I spent 2 days in bed.
Did it just last 2 days?
2.5, I'd say.
Ashley insists that gargling with salt gets rid of it.
It doesn't. There isn't a cure for the common cold. It's a well-known fact.
Have you ever tried gargling with salt?
No, why would you?
Oh man, it's just like day 18 of being marooned in the Pacific. It just makes you gag.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I tried to do it.
And it doesn't work. Fact.
Talk to her about that.
Well, I've recorded this. I can play it back to her when I'm not there.
Have you recovered yet from that extreme SAS weekend that we took part in?
Yeah, it was knackering, wasn't it?
Mm.
I was there for we were both there for 4 days. Oh, no, you left. No, we were there for 4 days and 3 nights, weren't we?
Yeah. The other day it was pouring down here and I looked out the window and I said to Ashley, right, imagine I sent you out into the field now and said, right, you've got to stay out in that field for the next 4 days.
4 nights.
4 nights.
There were so many moments and I was just thinking, I could just leave now. I've had enough of this.
No.
But then something took your mind off it and you started having
Yeah.
loads of fun again. It was very good, but we'll talk more about that anyway. That's on my list of things to talk about. So I wanted to talk about the 2 festivals. Obviously, you'll be in receiving mode when I talk about the ABR because you didn't go to that one. So talk about the Lightweight Adventurous Festival, talk about a Scotland trip. We've got loads of listener questions and I put something out this afternoon just to say send us some questions in and thinking we'd get our usual 5 or 6. And we've got about 30 different questions in from people.
Proper questions, not piss take questions.
No, there's piss take questions as well.
Oh, excellent.
Because obviously we haven't been recording for about a month now, simply because I just haven't had time to do any editing, really. We're going to get back on it. We've got loads of good people lined up.
Have you reached out to some people?
Not really, not yet, but I'm going to very soon.
Are you like me, just taking it for granted that they will
yes.
jump on board when they're
Well, we
asked?
tend to do it. Oh, I say we. I tend to do it by the seat of my pants anyway.
I give you all the leads.
You do, and you do chase some people up. So you've got somebody who said yes. I've got a couple of guys that have said yes. So I think yes, we'll be booking like a month in advance anyway, so we should be all right. I've got a list of people. You supplied your list of more realistic people.
Did you think I was valid when I said to you, yeah, but at least I found some real people?
Yeah, totally. I was just excited in festival mode. Yeah, Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp also said no. I have actually sent amusing emails like that off to people, thinking, oh, wouldn't it be good if? But then obviously you never even get a response.
There's a very interesting one that you came up with this week, which I think you were half serious about.
Let's really not say who it is, but if that comes off, that'd be brilliant. I listened to him in a podcast this week. He's so funny, so funny.
I would want to talk to him just to hear his laugh.
Yeah, brilliant. Be such a good guest if we could get him on. He's my friend's girlfriend's friend. He said he will ask him. I said, don't ask if it's awkward. Let's not get too excited about it because it almost certainly won't happen. So let's talk about, we were both at the Lightweight Adventurous Festival. Let's talk about that. We've mentioned the weather. The weather was pretty fucking grim for the whole weekend, especially the Friday when it literally just rained all day. constantly.
Everyone was looking at it quite positively, but they said this is great in a way for Jamie and Mark because this really tests them and it shows them how bad it can be and how to cope with it when it's this bad. Because if it was just sunny every year, you'd probably become quite complacent about how to set it up. But now they know what it's like in the wet. They can probably mitigate a bit more against that next year. But weren't they amazing? Every time you looked at them, they were doing something. It looked very stressful, but they
didn't relax for 1 minute. They were constantly doing stuff. And I think that's one of the lessons they got out of that, is that they had so many people that just turned up and helped them set up on the Thursday and stayed till the Monday to help take down. And I think they need to kind of make that a little bit more official, don't they? Get some more people in charge of various things. I mean, it was, Jim, Jace, I can't remember any more names, but there's so many.
You've got to remember all the... Now you've done that, you have to remember all the names.
Damien was there, Jason, Jim. There was a load of people that were on the door the whole weekend, which must have been the most dull thing.
Oh, they were unbelievable. I found that whole thing a little bit humbling, seeing what they did, because they just never stopped. And I just thought, these blokes, most of them, a few of them that I spoke to, they bought their own tickets, hadn't they? It's not like they were trying to get a free ticket. They bought tickets and then they did all that work. It was incredible, amazing.
Superb, and so many positives. The only negative really was the weather, and you can't do anything about that. But I guess the nice thing was it kind of forced everybody into the stretch tents, didn't it, for the various things that were going on. I don't want to make this about me, but so we did our first thing, didn't we, on Friday afternoon, quite early on. I'd forgotten something, so I had to go back up to my tent to get something. I'd come back down, and the fucking tent was full of people. And I'm thinking, normally we get like these events previously, we've had 10, 15, 20 people sat there. It was full, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Of literally tens, possibly even hundreds of people that had come. And I absolutely shat myself.
Did
I
you?
just wasn't expecting it. It's just like all of a sudden you're expected to be interesting and amusing.
You did very well. Yeah, I need to apologise. I really feel I didn't pull my weight that much over the weekend, partly because I was thrown by the schedule a bit. I completely missed Fern and Greg and a couple of other people. But a lot of the time I was just getting into conversations with people around the field that I found so interesting, I didn't want to get away from them.
That's the beauty of this event, because it is relatively small. Even at 500 people, it still retained that nice, friendly feeling, didn't it? And that's a positive thing, because you did still get a chance to talk to loads of people.
I think despite the weather, I think most people will have left it with quite a warm, fuzzy feeling.
All the feedback that I've seen has been incredibly positive.
So I met a lot of my good friends off Instagram. Big highlight was to meet people that I only know through their usernames. These are people that I know. I don't follow a lot of people on Instagram, but these are people I see their stuff every day. We have conversations quite often. So to actually meet them was just fantastic.
I loved it. And often you would have to go, okay, I recognise your face, but I don't know your name. Can't put the name to the face. What's your Instagram handle?
Well, I didn't even recognise the faces because none of us really, and me included, don't have our face on our little symbol on Instagram or Facebook. We need to change that. And also, a lot of people don't actually post pictures of themselves on Instagram, for instance. It'll always be of the bike, or if they are on it, they're wearing a helmet. But more often than not, they're taking the picture, so they're not in the picture. So that's not helpful in identifying them either. But that was great fun meeting them.
And some great talks as well by some amazing people, considering it's a small festival. The people that turned up and did a stint was fantastic, wasn't it? And some really, really interesting stuff. And I think without exception, everybody was great. They all did a really good job. Apart from, I don't think we can ever do live stuff ever again.
Why?
Because I can't edit myself, can I? I can't edit myself out. When I say these extremely rude or hurtful things, they're there forever. I've injured people forever.
Yeah, but people don't remember. This tomorrow's fish and chip paper, isn't it?
I tell you who's going to remember. That lovely guy who was sat in the front row. He asked a question, and he's asked the question in his lovely West Country accent. He was a lovely man. And what you do is you repeat the question right into the microphone so people can hear what the question was. And I mimicked his accent.
It's a tricky one, that, isn't it? Because these are difficult times. Because that, on the surface of it, seems acceptable. But if that chap had been one of our Indian friends, you'd have been arrested.
I did apologise immediately, but I couldn't edit it out.
No. Ricky Gervais and Billy Connolly would say, was it funny? If it was funny, then that's fine.
People laughed, but people are evil. I meant to look the guy out afterwards and apologise properly, but I didn't get his name and I didn't do that. So I'm sorry, that man.
You feel genuine remorse for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to poor Rory. I was really horrible to Rory.
Oh, but he's kind of used to it. But I always feel bad for Rory in that everyone always mentions his age. That's it must get a bit tiresome.
He's ace though, isn't he? So I'm very sorry, Rory.
But maybe we should stop mentioning his age.
And the Lego Duplo thing. That was just mean. And the monkey thing, that was mean as well. It's difficult though, isn't it? Trying to be funny, maybe 5 times out of 10, you're actually funny. Most people in the other 5 times aren't funny, but I just tend to be offensive.
Yeah, well, that's your USP.
Yeah, but I can edit the worst of the outrages out, can't I, normally?
But look, nobody officially complained.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. But these things take a while for the CPS to process. It can take some time.
But overall, a fantastic event.
It was amazing. And I think, in a way, often when I'm away on a bike trip, I have to remind myself, I have to think, how will I think about this trip next Thursday when I'm at home and I'm doing whatever I do when I'm at home or at work even. And I sort of give myself a little wake-up call. And I didn't do that at the festival. I should have thought, how am I going to think about this next week when I'm warm and drying in front of the fire with a cup of tea and some toast? And I would have said to myself, you're going to look back at this very fondly, enjoy it even more than you are now.
But well done, Mark and Jamie. You did a very good thing. And they've asked us to get more involved next year.
Really? How could we be more involved?
Don't know yet. They've not had time to think. They're down at the Armchair Festival. So you didn't go to the ABR Festival, and you didn't go because of your poorly foot. And obviously, we'll talk about your poorly foot later on. Looking forward to that.
What a year to go to the ABR. I was really gutted to miss it.
I really enjoyed it. I probably enjoyed it as much as last year. They were, again, really lucky with the weather. I heard they had 2,000 more people there this year. So I think it went from 10 to 12,000. I don't know whether that's true. It didn't particularly feel any more populated than it did the year before. It's difficult to tell the difference between 10 and 12,000 though, isn't it?
Well, I was going to say, my overriding memory of it last year was just the noise of bikes continuously going around the circuit. There was always that roar of bikes. Was that just the same?
Yeah, just the same. And it was pretty much, everything was the same, really. I guess that's one of my only slight, it's not even a criticism, but they tend to have the same speakers every year. And I'm sure that isn't necessarily true, but the big names are still the big names, aren't they?
Did you sit through any complete talks?
I did sit through a few that Simon and Lisa hosted. Dylan's, because just Dylan is just an all-star as far as I'm concerned. Who else did I sit through? I sat through, I think I missed David Goldman, the photographer. I think I missed his, unfortunately, but I did hang out with him separately, so that's okay.
Who else? Who did you meet who'd been on the podcast? Did you meet the Australian couple?
Absolutely lovely, yeah. And I think them and David got there like a day early, and they ended up camping next door to each other because I said to them, look out for David. He's a very nice man. So they were camped next door to each other, which was lovely. But just such nice people. Really like them. I think they're heading north at the moment in Denmark or somewhere like that. Throw your leg over.
They've got some endurance. They're just constantly moving on one bike. It's amazing. And did you camp, or were you in the? You never camp in the van?
No, I went down on my CRF with the tent on the back. Yes.
Oh, you did? Yes. Why the hell did you ride the length of the country?
If it's a trail and adventure motorbike festival, you should go on your motorcycle. It's the law.
At no point did you think,
no.
Why am I doing this? I've got a camper van, and I'm just on the motorway between my house and the festival.
Each way I did half on the motorway, half on the nice A and B roads. So it was like, it's only, 130 miles or something. So, and it was lovely to meet up with a lot of friends that we ride with occasionally, but don't always get to see because of geographical distance. So that's the really nice thing. The downside with that is you can be with somebody at 1 minute, and then you look around and the next minute everybody's disappeared and you've got no chance of finding them again.
Did you meet and chat with Chris Birch?
Very briefly, and that's how we got the video, his little award acceptance video. He was very kind enough to do that. He was lovely, actually, because he's just completely bemused by the fact that he's just this massive star in, for those 12,000 people, he's, probably one of the most famous. Because he said to me, I said, I don't get this in New Zealand, funnily enough. Whereas,
Is it that funny?
3 days a year in the Midlands, he was an absolute superstar. And he was just, when I went up to him actually and asked him, said, look, you've won this award. It'd be amazing if you could, do a little acceptance video. And I kind of interrupted him chatting to these 3 other guys, just random people from the festival. And I went, it'd be amazing if you could do this. And then these 3 other guys went, one of them said, oh, mate, yeah, I love your podcast. And the others just went, yeah, me too. It's great. I love it. And it was like, so there was Chris Birch thinking, oh, yeah, everybody's heard of this podcast. But he actually did the video, which was great, which not everybody did. Because I met some of the other big stars that won awards and they didn't do videos for us.
Will you be going next year, or are you going to miss it?
I think I will go because I really do enjoy it. It's just good to catch up with everybody. If you arrange to meet and camp near to each other, obviously not too near because of my snoring. No, I think it's definitely worth the entry fee. Our Scotland trip.
We were very lucky with the weather, weren't we? When you look back at it now, it was just blue, gorgeous sky, gorgeous temperatures every day.
Considering it was Scotland, we had just the best weather, didn't we, really? It was just like being in the Caribbean. I wasn't really looking forward to it that much because I'm thinking Scotland, roads mainly, it's not going to be all that exciting, really. I like trail riding, but I think because of the weather and because it is just so beautiful, that northwest coast, the Highlands and the islands are just so stunning. I really enjoyed our time there.
So you don't look back on it and think of all the dull road you had to ride, do you? There was the little Edinburgh Ring Road, and you ran that in a flash, and you're off the road, off the motorway onto the A roads again, just near Stirling.
Yeah.
And then you're on great roads for the whole time. Probably after that, the dullest bits are going across the top of Glencoe, where it's long straights, but it's still great views, so it's not that dull. But there's nothing else to really endure, is there, between Stirling and all of the Highlands?
We're very much based in the north, so it's easier for us to get up there than most people, but it was astonishing. And we did get to ride some trails of dubious legality, probably.
I feel like we're giving away little bits of Greg's film if we talk about it, but we're not really, are we? No one's going to see Greg's film, so we probably can't just talk about what happened. We could probably just talk about how we were given that tip in a certain part of Scotland by somebody serving as a breakfast roll who said, I've got a trials bike and there's a little road that...
why didn't we listen properly when he said, I've got a trials bike?
Yeah, but he described it as the old postman route that sort of cut across a peninsula. And it made sense that there would be a road to cut across that peninsula. Why would, in the olden times, why would they go all the way around it? There must have been a road that just cut across it. So let's go and have a look at it. So we went to have a look at it. And it was a road. And it did seem pretty legal and fine.
And then it wasn't.
It became a little... it looked like a footpath, didn't it? But it was just a massive drop down to a waterfall in a gorge. And it just became, you started to think, well, the consequences of just having a slight tumble and bikes are just going to drop down for miles.
If my bike goes down there, the only way we're getting that bike out of there is by a helicopter. Possibly it's going to leave my bike down there and just take me straight to the hospital.
But it wasn't so much that, was it? We were just thinking the path just became too steppy and too steep and too narrow, and you weren't even sure what was beyond it, really. Where did it end?
We stopped and somebody walked all the way kind of up to the top and just said it just goes on and gets worse. I want to turn around. So it was like, yeah, not a problem. Let's turn around.
And then something happened. This thing is going to be sold as I wanted to go on the gas. I really didn't want to go on the gas. Not bothered about riding the gas. But I thought it'd be quite nice for Davey, who's got a bit of a thing about my lovely old Honda XR. Quite a nice place for Davey to ride the XR along the easy bit of road back to the tarmac. So that was the impetus behind me saying, Davey, over the intercom, Davey, let's swap bikes.
You were doing a selfless thing for young Davey.
Yes, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Then, of course, why haven't I learned that anything to do with Greg ends in disaster?
You're blaming Greg now?
Yeah, I'm blaming Greg again.
What, for having a camera?
For having a GoPro on his big, massive clothes peg on his backpack. So he sticks the GoPro on. So I know, right, we're filming a bit here.
Are you telling this story so I can't tell my version?
So he's filming. So I know I've got to pull out all the stops, do a couple of stunts, and this will ensure my place in the edit. I've done this before. I've ridden behind Greg, and I've thought it's brilliant, and it's just been discarded. So I know you've got to go a little bit above and beyond.
You did go a bit above, didn't you?
Now, it was a perfect storm, really, because I'd also watched quite recently, Chris Bone sent me a Chris Birch video.
Was this an award-winning video?
Entitled How to Wheelie a Big Bike, where Chris talked me through all the techniques, which I already knew about. He really showed me very clearly that it was all about the compression and what I did with the clutch and the throttle. That's when I started to try and pull the front end
Did
up.
you miss the bit where he said just do a couple of little ones to, just get the feel on the
I
clutch?
think, of course, I forgot about the whole back brake thing. Covering the back brake was something I've never really even attempted. And also, I'm always trying to lift my CRF 250L. I'm always trying to lift the front end of that. And because you really do need technique for that because it's so heavy and so lacking in the power to do that. And the same with my 650. It's such a heavy thing. That's quite hard to lift up. So I was applying all these techniques that I'd learned from Chris to the gas. So I compressed it, lifted it, and then it just kept coming and coming and coming.
Compressed it, lifted it, looped it, fell underneath it.
And because I don't fall off a lot, I'm really terrible at falling
Hang
off.
on a minute. We know that's not true anymore.
So anybody else would have just let the bike go and just got away from it. And I kind of clung on to it. Now, I also had it in my mind in that brief second that this isn't my bike. It's quite an expensive bike. I could just see lots of rocks either side of the track. And I thought I'd better hang on to it so it doesn't. I had visions of it just somersaulting over all these boulders. So I did kind of hang on to it for that reason. And then it just came smashed right down onto my left foot. And it felt like my leg had snapped. And I lay there. So of course, Greg hears all of this because he's not seeing it because he's in front of me. I've got the intercom on, so he just hears me, he hears my death throes and thinks that I'm about to die. It was just because I was imagining my foot had been crushed. I looked at it as soon as I was on the ground. I just sort of looked and just expected all this blood to start seeping out of the boots. It didn't. So then I just realized it had just been badly crushed. But my ankle was fine. Well, you know the rest, really, because then we cut it with you.
Yeah, but this is like a radio program, so the others, they don't know that bit because they weren't there.
No, so it took a while. I thought it would kind of thaw out. I lay there for a little bit, hoping it would just, it's almost like as if it had hit a funny bone nerve or something, but it was just getting worse and worse. Just so desperate to carry on. I just knew straight away this was going to massively complicate things for the rest of the trip.
Kind of didn't really, though, did it? But anyway, in the spirit of Richard Herring, I'm glad you fell off.
Why? Why are you glad?
No, I'm joking. But just to praise what you've just said, basically it was Greg's fault, and any other idiot who falls off a lot would have actually done a lot better.
I never ride like that. I'm only riding like that for the flaming film.
So it is Greg's fault. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, ultimately,
Okay.
Responsibility lies with the filmmaker. Yeah,
It's like I'm sure there was blanks in that fucking gun.
No, I don't blame Greg, but I was only riding like that.
Showing off. You were fucking showing off in
I was
front of
trying
the
to get in the
camera.
film.
Showing off in front of the camera. It was karma for you saying, I never fall off. I don't need protective gear. You deserve it. I'm glad you fell off.
But hey, I just bet it worked. I bet I'm in that bloody film.
Oh man, if he doesn't use that, I'll make my own version.
Weirdly, I was really straight away. I was quite concerned as to whether he'd actually got it in the shot. It almost seemed like, well, this is bad enough, but if you haven't even caught this on camera, then it's an absolute disaster.
Yeah, absolutely. If you hadn't got it on camera, that would have been more of a disaster.
And of course, wonderfully, it was captured beautifully on his camera.
You're lying there in pain on the side of the road, and we're all watching a playback, trying not to laugh.
I think when he came back to me, I think one of his first words to me were, "Is it okay if I film this?" And then he made me sign some little scrap of paper. And then he got some ibuprofen out.
Changing the subject. All right, I got a. So we've got a website, tampodcast.com, which is basically, it's one of these automatically generated things from a thing called Podpage. And I've not really paid too much attention to Podpage because it's just kind of set up and it does everything for you. But it turns out we've got a mailing list with loads of people signed up to it that we've never actually sent mail shots out to. There's a feature in there for people to record audio and send it to us. But there's also, so there's a few people in here that I've not even spotted until a couple of weeks ago. So massive apologies to everybody that has sent in messages and things like that. And I'll try and catch up with everybody over the next couple of weeks. But we've got a very, very loyal listener in the US. I shan't use any names because that might embarrass the person. But this guy, yeah, he's a Patreon. He's been listening for ages, and he basically listens to them all and then just starts again. So he reckons he's listened from beginning to end at least a dozen times. We appreciate you. So we sent in some good facts about the Darien Gap, for example. There was a guy called Helga Pedersen He was the first person to ride a bike through the Darien Gap. He did it in 1985 on an R80 GS. He's also the first person to ride from the tip to top along the Pan Am Highway without taking a ferry. And he's got a couple of videos on YouTube, which you should check out. He said in our ACT podcast, we should give kudos and credit to Tom Mayers from Touratech USA and his crew in the Washington State for starting the Backcountry Discovery Routes BDR in 2009, and the ACT is in fact built on the BDR model. And then he's also said, so this is why I'm feeling bad about being mean to you, Noel, your constant degrading of Noel does not come across as funny. It's just mean and does not enhance the content at all. If anything, it's distracting. Maybe it's a US versus UK thing. Maybe it's just me. But you are much better when you leave out the purported humour.
Isn't that funny? I disagree with him, weirdly. But also, this backs up what I've always said about Americans. And you always disagree with me on this, but I always say, they're one of the most politest nation on earth.
Yeah.
And they really are. And I think this backs that up.
Yeah, I mean, I did respond, and I said that it probably is a US versus UK thing, because you're only that horrible to your friends, right?
Yeah.
It's just a way of showing your love. But the fact is, I've probably only offended you once or twice, right?
No, I don't think so. I think I've offended you far more times than you've offended me.
But in a funny way, so that's okay.
Yeah, no, but you've offended me in a funny way. I've probably offended you not in a funny way. By not remembering your children's names, for instance, or how many children you have.
I remember when we sat down and discussed what we were going to do at the Lightweight Adventurous Festival for our own half an hour.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to say this about you.
Yeah.
So maybe you can say this about me. That was the closest we've actually got to a rehearsal, isn't it, really?
I was relieved I was worried about the bike thing we did at the Lightweight Festival. I was relieved that word, because I thought that might come over as a little bit
indulgent.
Look at all the motorbikes I've got, yeah. But actually, it was quite interesting, perhaps, to sort of see why we'd made the choices we've made and the differences. But it worked, I thought. That
was the intention. Well, it's difficult to say. I don't know. Who knows what works and what doesn't work? Because you're so kind of in the moment, really. And it occurred to me, this is why comedians, they go and do like a few little. They go and test their material before they actually do it, don't they? You know, I came off that thing thinking, well, that was just half an hour of just fucking tedium, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to say what.
I, for one, enjoyed it, but I'm on the wrong end of the microphone to judge it. But so anyway, was my story of my accident in Scotland different to the story you've been peddling around?
No, it's pretty much spot on, really, other than the fact that it was totally your fault. You were showing off and you got your just comeuppance.
Yeah.
But I was going to really lay into you and mock you mercilessly, but Bob's made me think that I shouldn't do that. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, just keep asking yourself, what would Bob say in this situation? So Scotland, it'll come out probably in the film that it all went a bit awry. Again, it was a perfect storm of communication, probably. We didn't all go with the same aims, did we? And we didn't have a plan. And this idea of not being free from having a plan actually was our downfall in the end, I think.
Yeah, and we were kind of slightly at the mercies of the various ferries onto and around the islands, because basically we ended up having to get quite a late ferry over to Lewis and Harris, and it was quite late in the evening. I think you didn't come there, did you? Because you'd hurt your foot at that stage and decided to make your way home slowly. And at some point you decided, actually, my foot's not too bad. I'll wait for the guys and they can catch me up and we'll spend the last couple of nights together.
My thinking there was that I would get home, I'd go and see a doctor, and the doctor would say, you've done this, you've broken this, go home and take it easy. And I thought, well, actually, I can take it easy here. I'm just sitting on a bike all day, or not even the whole day, and then finding somewhere to camp and then looking out at a glorious vista. I'd rather do that here for a little bit longer than go home. So that's why I didn't get an x-ray for another 4 days. But sorry, what were you saying?
We'd got a late night ferry over from Skye to Harris and Lewis, and we just like looking for this regular evening routine of trying to find a wild camping spot, and in the end what happened was we didn't find a wild camping spot, we just found a shit camping spot, and I'm going, fuck this, I'm going to stay in a campsite, get a shower and a wash, there's plenty of them around here, I'm just going to ride to one. So a few other people felt the same, so we all ended up going to a campsite. It was a bit shit when we got there. So the following morning we woke up a little bit tired at this stage, and we then found out that the ferry that we were planning to take the following day, so we were going to spend a whole day on Lewis and Harris. We then found out that the ferry the following day was cancelled, so we either had to go that day or in 2 days' time. And it's just the thought of then, well, if they're here for 2 days, we've then got to ride bloody 400 or 500 miles in one day, whatever it was. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to go get on a ferry today and go and catch up with you. So it was the decision made by part of the group, not the whole of the group. And then that kind of caused some ructions. And then we ended up going in slightly different ways.
I mean, it wasn't helped by the fact that if you hadn't been to Harris before, if you didn't know exactly what was in store for you if you did stay, it might have been a slightly different decision, mightn't it?
Yeah, I've been a couple of times to Harris and Lewis, and I know for a fact that Lewis, lovely though it is nothing compared to Harris. So rather than allow the film to develop, the story to develop by finding new places, I just go, no, let's just go down here, because I know it's a bit shit up here, whereas down there it's absolutely bloody lovely. And that didn't help either.
See, I kind of feel I cursed the trip a little bit because I did steer it quite a lot in the early stages because I knew where or what would be good to see, places to go that would be good to go to. So I kind of steered it a little bit. It would have been great if none of us had been before and it was all new to us and all the decisions were new. But I was kind of putting people off from going to certain places because I didn't think they were that great. We'd be better off doing some more miles and getting to that place I'd been to.
Yeah, it's a difficult balance, isn't it, to get that right? But you're right. I mean, I was just because I've been to Harris and Lewis like 3 times now, and it's just like, no, let's just do this because we've got limited time. We're going to get on a ferry later on this afternoon, so let's just go down here. And in fact, that's what some of us did, and then 2 other folks stayed an extra night. So, but we all met up again. We met up with you, and everything was fine.
But it turns out taking a little trail bike to Scotland is really good, isn't it?
Well, I was the only one on a little trail bike, really.
Yeah, but we're all on single-cylinder trail bikes.
Yeah, so there's me on my 300, you on your 650, couple of 690s. That 300 was absolutely fine. I never felt like I couldn't keep up with everybody else. I mean, we don't go particularly fast anyway, but with the CRF, you are on just maximum throttle.
Really, on maximum?
No, you're not.
No.
You're not.
Well, you're not. It's that little bit of acceleration, isn't it? That's really all you're missing. But once you can get up to the rest of the rider's speeds in no time.
Yeah, it never felt like an issue with a big old fat lump like me on it, and all my camping gear as well. It was absolutely fine. Should we go through some of these questions?
Yeah,
Let's just see how many we've got. So we've got about 20 questions on Instagram, and then we've got some on Facebook as well.
Oh, great.
So from our friend Rory, sorry again, Rory, which actor, actress would play you in TAMP, the movie? I've got an answer to this. It would obviously be a Muppet movie, and it'd be Stadler and Waldorf.
Oh, come on. No, you've got to aim higher than that, surely.
Oh, it's fucking Brad Pitt. It's obvious for me it'd be Brad Pitt, obviously.
Brad Pitt. Keanu, he could do me.
Yeah.
Got the same haircut.
I don't know why it's even a question. It's so obvious.
It is really, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here's another one. From Dad's Talking podcast, which isn't actually available anymore. It's from Nathan. Do you both know how to change tyres / punctures?
I'm always amazed when there's a little demonstration about how to repair a puncture at one of these festivals that it's amazing how many people turn up to watch it.
And don't know how to do it.
Well,
because the answer is, Nathan, yes, of course we know how to do it.
Yeah, because if you've had I don't know, I'd never quite get it, that it's that much different from changing the puncture on a push bike, really.
Well, it's no different in principle, is it? I think the tricky thing is it's more difficult on a motorbike, and the trick is you push the bead down so it sits inside the opposite end of the wheel that you're trying to lever the tyre back onto. Now, that said, the best way to do it is to travel with Davey and just let him do it for you.
Well, I was going to say, that said, the last one I changed, I did nip it 3 times and ended up just chucking the fucking tube away in frustration and putting a new one in. So I know how to do it. I'm not good at it, or I'm still a certain amount of potluck as to whether I'm going to be successful in it.
And we both cheat as well because we take our new tyres to the local bike shop to get them done.
Yeah, I feel guilty doing that. So every probably 3rd tyre I put on myself.
Shall I buy one of those machines?
No, you don't need a machine. You just need some tyre levers. It's just a bit of a wrestling match, isn't it? But with the technique, and it's all about getting that bead into the well of the wheel, isn't it?
But the other thing to do, Nathan, if you don't want to be arsed with punctures and tyres, is get some Iran mousses for for many, many, many
No,
years.
no.
They're expensive, but you can't puncture them.
But they're a pain in the arse, aren't they? You can't beat a tube.
No, they're not a pain in the ass because you just pay somebody else to put them in for you. So they're very expensive. They're 100 quid a piece, possibly more than that. All right, here's another one. What's the meaning of life, the universe, and why are we doing it? That's an easy question again. As well, there is absolutely no meaning to life. Life is ultimately meaningless. I remember thinking when my kids were little, at least children add meaning to life. They're not the meaning of life, but at least they add some kind of meaning to your life. But now they're grown up, it's like, fucking hell, that's bollocks, wasn't it?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because you don't want to offend anyone by saying when you're dead, you're dead. But actually,
You're dead.
When you're dead, you're dead. Yeah, it does kind of give you a kick up the arse to go and
Rotting.
do the stuff.
Do fun stuff before you die. And be nice to people. From one of our favourite guests, David Goldman photo.
No.
Yeah, he sent 2 questions in. What is the fastest land animal? Which is the cheetah. And should I fake my orgasms? And I'm thinking, David, seriously, mate, you have to actually be having sex with somebody to be able to. Otherwise, the only person you're kidding is yourself. Clive, how do you rate your Honda CBX 500 and how would it compare against a Yamaha T7 on the ACT type stuff and touring? I've just sold my CB500X. I rated it very highly. The only downside to it is the lack of ground clearance.
So anyway, have you answered the question? What was the question again?
So how would it compare to a T7? I would say, I looked at the weight earlier, T7 weighs 228 kilograms, CBX weighs 199 kilograms. I would say the T7 is probably going to be a better bike if you're going to be going off-road. But I would also say, get a CRF.
T7's a world away from a CB, surely. Completely different animal.
Yeah, it is really.
Yeah.
Designed for a different thing completely.
Would you like a T7?
Not particularly.
Would you not? They look amazing.
Too big, too heavy. He's also this is Mountain Matt. He's also heading to Morocco at Christmas. He's got a Himalayan booked for a few days. How safe is it solo?
Matt is going to Morocco
Mountain
solo on a
Matt.
Himalayan. Yeah.
And he's hired a Himalayan to go and have a look around Morocco. Is it safe, he's saying. So Morocco
Completely.
is,
safer than here, I would say.
Probably is. Absolutely fine. It's absolutely glorious. Obviously, the dangers are that you're riding a motorbike and you might fall off in the middle of nowhere. And if you're on your own, you need to make sure you've got some comms in place so you can call the emergency service. It's the same. But yeah, just because you're in Morocco and it's pretty remote.
And Matt, they'll do a thing at the hotels where they'll offer you a bike guardian for the night. I would say employ that bike guardian and give him more money than he asks for the next morning. But also realise that they're really only doing that to placate your Northern European paranoias, because there's absolutely no risk of your hired or your own bike getting nicked, I would say, in Morocco. But they do this lovely thing where a man sits by your bike all night. You feel terrible when you look out of your hotel window and there's a guy sat in a plastic chair at 2 a.m. to make you feel better about having your bike parked outside.
So don't look out your window, Matt. But no, Morocco's an amazing place. The hotels are lovely. The food is incredible. The people are friendly.
Yeah.
I think you'll have the piste are just amazing. If you get off piste, obviously it's a little bit more dangerous because you're more chance of falling off and hurting yourself.
But for generally touring around, I wouldn't waste any time worrying about it. All you'll meet is friendly. What you'll find is it's hard to come back to Europe and it's just nobody smiling at you and being ultra helpful.
Yeah. That said, you could fall off, break your back, and die in the middle of nowhere on your own.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah.
Don't say we didn't warn you. This one made me laugh, from our friend Michael Fable. How do you get a photo that covers 2 pages on Insta? That's so funny.
That was my question. I asked somebody this week.
I've made a note of what the answer is. There's an app on Apple called Scroll, SCRL. And I think on Android, there's a few different ones called Fast Story, Story Heap, or Unfold. There's 3 different options there. So also from Michael, I need a new sleeping bag. Those from the awards are mega expensive. Do you really use them? I think the cheapest sleeping bag on that list, and they're all down sleeping bags for a reason, was the Alp Kit one, and that's about £200. So I've got 2 sleeping bags now. I've got a Rab Ascent winter bag, which is very expensive, and I've also got a Berghaus, sort of more of a 3-season sleeping bag, which I got in the sale for about 80 quid. I think you're with me, aren't you? Down sleeping bags, definitely worth it.
Yeah, I wouldn't even sort of recommend a brand to someone. I would just say do lots of just do a little, well, not even lots of, just do a little bit of shopping around on Google for down sleeping bags, and there'll always be somebody selling one at a deal, even if it, Blacks or Millets or someone will be selling one that's within the sort of amount of money that you want to spend. But Michael's loaded; he can get the best one available.
Have you ever thought about organising your own event outside of the various festivals? That's from our friend Neil in Australia.
Not a chance. We've seen other people do it, and it looks hellish.
Well, I did toy with the idea of organising a bit of a get-together for the patrons.
Yeah, we could do that.
But
on the estate,
on your estate. But the problem is that if you organise an event, you are liable for anything that happens.
Oh, sure. Come on, we're not living in that litigious society.
We're not, but some people might be. The fact is, you could organise something, right? Somebody crashes and breaks their back and is disabled for the rest of their life, and then you get the blame for it. We both lose our houses.
Come on, you've got to analyse your own particular risk and go from there. And I think there'd be not a lot of risk for somebody riding into the field in front of the house, unless the portaloo that I'm going to have to hire falls on them. I think everything's going to be fine.
So, Neil, the answer to your question is, have you ever thought about it? The answer is yes. And then the answer was no.
But I like your patrons idea. That's a good one.
Yeah, That'd we should do something. But I thought basically I would have somebody else organise it and take all the risk.
What?
Just...
There's nothing to organise. We're going to have a fire pit and a portaloo. And I might even build my own portaloo.
Do you know how many patrons we've got these days?
8, 6.
Higher.
5 tops.
Higher. Nearly 50 now. What? Exactly. So do you want 50 people turning up?
Yeah.
Great. Let's do it. Yeah. Neil, let us know when you're flying over. We'll get it sorted. I like this one. It's just another one from Michael. How annoying is it when people ask advice and then don't take it? That's aimed at you, Noel.
Well, come on. That is my life. That happens to me every single day. And I was thinking today, there must be something about the way I deliver this advice that it's just not convincing. Because this is the bane of my life. These people asking for advice and then not even asking for advice. Maybe that's the issue. They haven't asked for the advice, but I'm doling it out.
Pre-given advice.
Unrequited advice, yeah.
Oh, this one. This is from I can't remember the name of the guy now. His YouTube site is I Like Motorbikes, and I remember I met him at the ABR, and his T-shirt just had I Like Motorbikes written across the front of it. Tom. Anyway, lovely fella. Check out his YouTube videos. 2 questions: who is your favourite guest you've had on the pod so far? And second question: which bike fest do you prefer and why? I've really thought about this, your favourite guest thing. So I love it when we have our friends on, because it's an easier conversation. You know these people, you know the limits. You can be rude to them and they can be rude back to you, and it seems to be funnier. So people like Ollie, Greg, Will, Rupert, Team Yaris, Ed, Mav, Seats, Jamie and Mark, Adam, Neil, Mungo, Steve, John, Chris, all those people. Very good.
We need to do all of them again if we can persuade
them.
Yeah,
at some point in the future. Get some new people on.
The one that stands out to me, partly because it was just such a shock, I had no idea it was coming, was the recent David Goldman one. That was just astonishing for me. I really loved that one.
So I've asterisked 3 that I've really enjoyed doing, and we are going to be best friends with all these people. It was David again. David, it was just awesome, very funny. Lel Pavey, really nice bloke.
Yes, that's my second one, but he's still ignoring my texts.
And then Sidecar guys, Matt and Reese, just lovely blokes.
Yes, yeah. Why haven't we gone up there and ridden sidecars around in the mud?
Because we've been at festivals, and then they've got their own festival this weekend, but we will do it.
There's lots, isn't there? It's easier. Well, it's cheesy, but it's easier to think of the ones I didn't enjoy.
Yeah, but we won't mention those. But also people like Dylan, fucking brilliant. Austin is always great value for money. Now, Austin's going to come on again, but he's going to come and do it in person next time. He's going to come and ride with us, and we're going to have a weekend with him and go and do some live podcasting in the Lake District. It would be great.
Really? What? You've talked about this with him?
He suggested it at the ABR. He was probably just being kind, but yeah. Ben is always great value for money, and Rohit, over from India, loved him.
If I'd been on the Ben one, I would be saying Ben, but I wasn't here for that one.
Interestingly, I entered us in the Independent Podcast Awards 2023.
Oh, when's it happening?
We're in consideration now, but I had to select 3 15-minute clips.
Was that easy?
No, it was quite difficult with 75 different episodes to choose from. Ollie's First Aid podcast. It's 15 minutes of that. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, of course. I forgot about... Sorry, Ollie. I forgot all about Ollie.
Dylan's one, because he just the story he tells is absolutely amazing. And then there's some really funny stuff from the Sidecar guys. So those 3. So it's
Toll-free traveller. And I should mention toll-free traveller as well.
Yes, right. Yeah,
Right.
brilliant.
He was lovely to talk to.
Right, who would win in a fight between you two?
When were you last in a fight?
Pre big school, so maybe 8.
Oh, you never had like an adult fight with anyone?
You've got a manual labour job, haven't you? Whereas I just push keys on a keyboard. So I reckon you'd kill me.
But you're a heavyweight. You've got the substance. Have you ever been punched?
Properly? Yes, I have. I'm from Coventry. Of course I've been fucking punched.
So you know what it's like to be punched. It's always a shock though, isn't it? But as an adult man, you're not often in the situation where you're grappling with another adult man. It happened to me about a week and a half ago.
Shut up.
Of course it did. You were there, you witnessed it, and you did nothing to help. I was physically attacked by Jamie at the Lightweight Festival. He was a little bit merry, and he decided to do some kind of pylon thing on me.
I do remember that. I was shouting, "Mind his foot!"
Yeah, so you forget what it's like to get into a tussle with someone, and it's a very odd feeling. But what was the initial question? How long ago?
No. Who would win in a fight between you two?
Oh, who would win in a fight?
I'm going you.
I don't know. Do you ever dream about fighting?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, better not admit to that
weird.
then.
Right, let's move on. Why don't you put the podcasts on YouTube? And I know why you don't do it, but in fact, the answer is I have got some podcasts on YouTube, but I've got them as audio only.
Oh, come on, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but this is the problem. Like, as audio only, nobody's fucking listened to them. Like, I think 37 people.
It's a visual medium.
Yes.
YouTube.
So that's the problem. Is we could do what Bruce does, for example, and record the video, easy enough to do. But the problem is, I edit massively our podcasts to make them professional sounding in good enough quality to go on the radio. But to do that with video would be a fucking nightmare and just take forever. So that's why I don't do it.
Yeah, but there wouldn't be that much to take out. I mean, you're giving the impression that.
Do you want to do it?
I wouldn't mind if there's a need for it. If people would like it, I wouldn't mind doing it. But it would be less edited than yours. But that's not a bad thing.
It'd be two separate things, wouldn't it? It'd have to be two separate things. And it would be so much more effort.
I don't think we can get our head around the fact that anybody out there would like to see it.
No, Stadler and Waldorf again, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind editing that. As I say, I would probably be quite casual about how much I take out.
Don't say that, because people are going to be asking about it now, and it's not going to happen.
Well, see if that kicks off. It probably
no, it definitely won't. I like this one. Nice one, Steve, who camped right next to us at the festival. Good bloke. Has Noel's stance on protective gear changed in the light of recent experience?
It's a very interesting question. So I had a long conversation a few years ago with John Ross about boots, and he'd had quite a nasty accident and now wears very stiff boots as a consequence of that accident. And at the time I was wearing former Adventures. And for this trip where I did hurt my foot, I just bought some new Gain Trials boots.
Very, very soft, just thick leather, right?
Well, soft, but stiffer probably than my former Adventure boots, I would say. Mainly because formers are fairly soft anyway, but I've had these for 10 years, so they're like slippers, really. I have since bought some stiffer boots, but that's mainly because I'm very wary now about putting my compromised foot into a soft boot again.
You've bought full-on enduro or motocross boots, haven't you?
I've bought some City Crossfires is what I went for in the end. Boots are so expensive now.
So the answer to your question, Steve, is Noel has completely
changed.
What if that bike had fallen on your face and you'd had an open face helmet on?
Oh, come on, the what ifs.
Yeah, but it just seems ridiculous that so I've hurt my foot, so I'm now going to get something to protect my foot better for next time. Whereas open face helmet, don't wear one. Wear a full face helmet.
But I could say to you, look, I was wearing an open face helmet in that crash, and I was absolutely fine, which proves that my open face helmet is absolutely fine.
Fuck, that's undeniable logic.
So now I have 3 pairs of boots. Still have a pair of former Adventures. I have the Gain Trials boots, and I have City Crossfires, and I'll still wear all of those items of footwear, but just for different things. Different bikes for different things, different footwear for different things. But yes, it has changed. You're absolutely right. It has changed.
All right, question from Richie. If you had to go on one final bike ride or trip, where would it be and why?
I saw a film about 2, 3 years ago. I meant to find out who it was by. Maybe I could still, but somebody put a really nice film together, riding up through Finland. And Finland isn't the most desirable place to go and ride for a lot of trail riders. I was really taken with it, and so I am still obsessed with heading north on a big ride. And that ties in with this question. I would go north, and I would head up towards all the Scandinavian countries and head
Do
for
you know what?
Finland.
I looked at how far a trip would be to go from Amsterdam, ferry to Amsterdam, and bearing in mind there's going to be a ferry to Denmark soon if it comes off. And looked how far it was to go via Malmo up to Bergen to go and visit our Scandinavian friends, and it was about 900 miles. And I'm thinking, big adventure bikes, a couple of 100 miles a day. Let's do it.
Yeah, easy. You're not thinking of the one just north of Amsterdam to Norway?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think so. Are you more inclined to head north or south?
I would be more inclined to head west and go and do South America, Argentina, Peru, Chile.
Are you interested at all in the Bosnias and the Romanias?
I've done a fair amount of travelling around there anyway, but that wouldn't be my dream location. I'd love to go and ride there sometime. Head out to Bulgaria and go and do all those kinds of places. But I think if it really was a big trip, then probably South America would be my choice. But realistically, let's go and do Scandinavia next year. Or did we go to the Alps?
I think we can do both.
Right. You're preparing for a trail ride, you open the garage door and it's absolutely lashing down. Do you still go? I would say if you've arranged something, you're still going to go and do it. If I was just going to go out on my own, I probably wouldn't.
I would say no. And it's a little bit like I would never bother climbing a mountain if it was misty. It seems pointless to me if I can't see a view from the top of the mountain. And to go out in miserable weather is invariably miserable.
Lance has asked a couple of good questions. One of them is obviously directed at me. How many beers should I expect to fit in the panniers I won at the Lightweight Adventurers Festival? Lance, I'm really sorry we didn't say hello. I didn't recognise you. I was probably drunk myself at that stage when you actually won them, so apologies for that. I reckon you could probably fit at least 4 packs of 10 cans in one, 2 each side easily.
You surely get enough for an evening just in the pouches, in the external pouches.
You might be able to. Apparently his son's stolen them off him and he wants to put them on his own motorcycle. So the question then is, what 50cc motorcycle is available for a young adventurer? John Ross's son had a lovely one, didn't he, for a while, which was the Derby Sender.
They're very rare. You never see them. Yeah, but they were great, weren't they? Yeah, I think that's the only option, really. There's any other?
I think Fantic and probably some Chinese ones you can get as well, like the Ryu. R-I-E, don't know, they do them as well.
But search out a sender.
Okay, final question from Sandro. How annoying do you find it on a trip when you have someone wanting to record videos and take many photos?
It's not annoying at all, I don't think.
I don't find it annoying, actually, and we do get a lot of that. I think part of the trip is stopping and enjoying the crack anyway, so
yeah,
I don't have a problem with that.
It's more annoying as someone who does take pictures being on trips, and I think it's annoying for everyone on the trip when you come back with no photographs. And there's so many times where I've ridden along really scenic routes with people, and we've probably all been a bit frustrated at the end that we didn't take the time to stop and try and capture some of it.
Well, that's all the questions I'm going to ask. There was more, but we'll save them for another day.
Yeah, I'm intrigued as to what the ones were that you rejected now.
Do you want me to tell you what they were and I'll edit this out?
Yeah.
You still haven't told us who your favourite Adam is. That's from Adam. Did HP2 Mav scare you into giving him an award at the Lightweight Adventures Festival? Clutchless gear changing, yes or no?
No.
Is there an opportunity to have a post-small ride-out bike maintenance clean TAMP workshop one day? We've already done that, Simon. We've done that with Adam and Joe. Not that Adam and Joe, the other one.
About what to do to your bike afterwards, just about how to clean it and...
Yeah. Prep it for... What are folks up to this summer might be inspiration for others. Any listener going to take on more than one continent? Which region of the UK is best, apart from Wales?
I know the answer to all these questions.
What's the best trailside food and drink experience you've ever had? Update on the BMW GS. That's about it. So, fucking hell, we've been recording for 1 hour and 20 minutes. That's... I thought it'd be about half an hour, but I've quite enjoyed catching up. That's been fun.
I found myself a few times at the festival talking quite glibly about the podcast and not realising that the person I'm talking to is just about to tell me just what it's meant to them.
Oh, fuck, I'd forgotten about those moments, yeah.
You know, this happened like 3 times where I kind of just went, it's just a... And then somebody like put their hand on my shoulder and said, mate, you don't understand. They're like, fucking hell.
I reckon I probably had the same 3 people come up and say to me, look, you just got me through a really hard time. I mean, there were some really sad stories, actually.
Amazing, isn't it? Mm.
It is, and that was probably the loveliest thing as well, hearing those people say that. But yeah, that obviously wasn't our intention as a couple of fucking idiots talking bollocks. Blimey, that turned into a bit of a marathon chat session, but it's all good fun. Person to contact if you want to have a get together or you want to start seeing our podcasts on YouTube is Noel Tom 2003 on Instagram. Send your messages to him. Don't bother me. Trust me, none of these things are going to happen. All right, see you next time for a new instalment and another very exciting guest or two. Catch you later. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate your support. Don't forget you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you really appreciate what we do, you could consider supporting us on Patreon or buy us a coffee. Links are available on our website, which is tampodcast.com, tampodcast.com, where we also have a limited selection of branded stuff. But either way, please keep listening and spreading the word. See you next time.